Yesterday we used some more topics from Angular. Let's have a revision, then we'll continue. So we saw how to create modules and what is module, then how to create components inside it, and how to map that module to the root module, which is app module.ts file, and then we able to call the component. Then we also saw how to get functions on events. So we saw button click events. We use this alert function, which shows this kind of functionality. Then we also tried to get the name. Initially, we tried with hard-coded name. Then we also made it dynamic by passing that name through this thing. So we are using this kind of ID box. Then it's working. Then we also saw a simple logical part where we have two buttons which works plus and minus. So we were simply incrementing and decrementing the values. So this is what we did yesterday. Now we have to talk about like we can start with some forms like we talked about yesterday. So we can see how to create forms, and if we have to print all the data from form to, let's say, console, so that's also possible. So we have to see that how to deal with the forms. So you know what is form, right? A simple forms, HTML forms.
हम्म।
Okay, so we will do something similar. Okay, here we are. So let's do ng serve entered.
एक बात और पूछना था, लाइक ये हमने लाइक कॉल वो बॉक्स बनाया था ना, बॉक्स का लाइक आपने हैश हैश वो कोड का पार्ट है या बस आपने ऐसे ही लगा दिया था?
ऐसे थोड़ा लगा दूंगा मैं. It was a part of it to uniquely fetch the values. So
हाँ,
if I
ये
say
बॉक्स के
box,
आगे की बात।
then backdot value. So whatever you entered in this text field, it will fetch its value. This is just one way, not the only way. So this also works. So we give kind of a identifier, ID something you can say. So from that ID, I can fetch the value. Okay.
उन्होंने मेरे कहने का मतलब ये हैश हैश लगाना हैश कोड का ही पार्ट है
Yes,
ना?
hash is a part of code.
ओके।
Yes, it is. And if I run this local host 4200, okay, so this is a page, it's working fine. Okay, now we need to create a form. So let's do one thing because lots of things are coming up here. So kind of messed up. First of all, let's try to fix this part. So we are calling all these on component page. These are things. Okay. So for now, um, but again I need to show this here. Mm, 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 mm. Just thinking how to hide this or show some functions. HTML pages here. What if I just comment for now? Okay, that's how we comment. So again, page is gone, right? Okay, for now I'm commenting this page. Okay, so we're commenting this page when the type, so we can see something from this scratch. Okay, but later I'll, because right now I haven't teached you how to create links and all stuff, so that will confuse you. So for now, I'm commenting all the previous stuffs. Okay, so we have to create a HTML form. So for that, I can use, or we can create a new thing. You know what? We can also create a new component. That will be better. Oh, we already have registered. No, that's fine. We can use this file. So we have this register page. Oops, multiple things happen here. Buttons and stuffs. Okay. So let's do one thing. Let's move this comment from here to here. So I can show only register page contents. And serve.
और इसमें लाइक वन सिंगल लाइन को कमेंट करने के लाइक हम डबल स्लैश यूज कर देते तो इसमें वो काम नहीं करता है ना, राइट?
यस मैं करता हूँ. यस.
तो सिंगल लाइन में कमेंट करने के लिए हम क्या यूज करते हैं इसमें?
ऐसे कमेंट करते हैं. Okay. So HTML register component. Okay. Okay. So I'm adding one more line. So here it is. Now I will create a form. So starts with form tag. So form, now notice carefully, okay? So I'm creating a form. With this tag, we have like I can say multiple attributes like this. You can list out by using control space. So after form, you can click type. Let me type basic form. That's my unique identifier. You can say ID. Okay, it's an ID for it. This. So these are always unique throughout the form. Then basic form, let me use this way. Then again, this is one way, not the only way to create the forms. Then we say ng form. Then I'll create ng, and we have this functionality ng submit. So when we click on submit button, this thing happened, and we will create some function here. So let's say get form data, and then whatever ID we have used, this ID, I'll this one, sorry, this one the ID, this is the ID basic form. I'll copy this and say dot value like we used earlier with the text field. Remember, same way we are doing this. We did it here. So this was the ID, and we are doing what? Whenever someone enters anything inside this text field, it fetches its value. So ID dot value. So this is unique throughout the page, you can say. So I created one more ID for this form. So ID dot value, and it's done. Okay, now I need to create multiple input types to take some input from the user. So input type text, then ng model. Okay, there's one model which you have to use this way, and then name, let's say username. Then we can also put a placeholder. I'll say enter username, and then this tag is closed. Likewise, I can create some more input types. Let's say this one. Second, let's say we will take email, and this will like enter email. Next one is, let's say we have to use password. So password, we change the type, we use password type. So the second, so it won't show the password text. Enter password. Okay, so we have three fields, and let's break this up. So breaking one line, let's break one more line. And I'll create some kind of um, button here. So let's say button, and this button says register. Okay, so we are already in the register page. This makes sense. And the idea is whatever you will enter, okay, listen carefully here. So whatever you will enter in these text fields, they should get populated on the same page. Okay, right here. So I will create what? I'll create a list, HTML list. So that will be an order list, and inside this I'll print multiple list out attributes, text, and here um, now we will see how to print it. Okay, so this part is done. We have a form ready, and we have three fields: username, email, and password. So I will try to fetch all that data from here, and we will see how we can get it on different page. So this is our TS file. Let's add some more contents. So first of all, we need an object. Why we need an object? So whatever data we have or whatever fields we have on this form, that can be binded to that object. So I will create one object, let's say user data, then colon, and this time because it's an object type, so I'll say any, and then semicolon. So what I just did on this line, I created an object, and this is a TypeScript signature, which I already asked you to go through the how to get objects. Then we can do what? We can create a function. So what was the function name on form? Get form data. So this is a function. So whenever user click on this button register, so this goes to here, and it calls this function get form data. Okay, so this is the function, and then There it is, and it is taking one argument, right? On HTML, we can see it says basic form, this ID dot value. So whatever fields we have, they will fetched from this part. So here in this argument, I need to give some type. So now this is important. Watch carefully. I'll say form data, then colon, and I will use one ng form. This one, and you can see this is already a part of import. So what I just used one of the class, you can say, like we in Koja we tend to say import something. We have some features in other class, like we used collections, array list, linked list. So usually you will see a line import java.util.list. So what we did here, we did the same part here. We are importing one class and gave a type that this form is of type ng form. So that's a default behavior. And now what we will do, we will say for now I'll say console dot log. So like we have log console on Eclipse, same we have console in our web browser as well. So here I can directly print that form data and semicolon. That's it. And we are getting an error. So let's see what's that. For now, let's comment this out. We will do that later. Okay, what is the issue? ng form. No directive found with export as ng form. Okay, so it's saying directive is missing. Okay, so we have to use one feature on we are inside register. So do we have its module here? I think it's part of this part register. Okay, so here we have to use one more module because by default Angular won't understand that you have used Angular form or ng forms. So you have
Okay.
to import it explicitly or manually. So import this,
From
and here you have to type, no, you have to use forms module, this one. Okay, it comes from Angular forms and it's a module. So like we imported other modules, so copy that and this is the place it here, form module. Okay, I saved that and you can see now comparison successful, right? Okay, now let's see the code. This how it looks. And for now, ignore the stuffs, but let's do one thing. At least let's add some simple, you know, text here. So it's a username. So colon, and I'll break this line. Next is email. Here. Third one is password. Colon. Then here. Okay, file saved. Okay, that's how it looks. That's fine. No CSS has been used so far, so that's why it looks kind of weird, but we can work with it. And what we will do, we have to check the console as well. So you have to right click on your page and you can see multiple tabs are here. Elements, console, source, and so you have to go for console. And here this is a button for clear. So click this and everything will be gone. Okay, so let's see what happens when we enter something. So right now I'm giving some random information to see what will happen. So if I say register, can you see everything is coming up on console? This is like an Eclipse console. So on web browser we have console here, and if you click some button and you are printing something on console, this will get printed. And this is happening because of this line in ts file, that console.log, and whatever data you have binded this form data. And what is this form data? It's a variable which is carrying forwarded from here, basic form data. You can call it anything on ts file, form data or whatever you want to call it. So it's just a variable name, and this is Angular form, and that's how we binded that HTML page to this function, and we just printed on console. And of course if you want to print something else, Like we want to hard code certain messages to confirm whether this function is called or not. You can also say hello from get form function. File saved. And this time if I click again, so you can see hello from get form data function. And but these things are blank because I haven't put anything. So these are coming empty. Now if I clear, click again. Sorry, cleared and click register again. So now we have data. Okay, so these are coming on console, and definitely we don't want that on our web browser. We need everything on our web page. So to do that, we will use this variable user data, and from here we will initialize all that part. So here I'll say user data equals the form data coming from the argument form data. So what we just did, we have binded whatever coming from this to this one, and this is already an object type. How do I know this is object? Because it has curly braces. So this is an object type, and it can take any type of objects. So after doing this, I can try to print on web page. Let's see how it comes up. So again we will use interpolation, and variable name is user data. Yes, it's user data. So going back and printing in here. Let's see how it looks up like when you click. So this is empty, and then register. Okay, it looks weird, right? It's still saying object. So we need to fetch data from it. So how do I can fetch it? I can say user data dot, let's say, um, what was the first field? Username. So username, file saved, going back, and you can see now it's gone. See, earlier it was
Yeah.
user data, but it's gone. Now I'm printing some random data. See, coming.
Mm.
So likewise, I can add these in list, unordered list of HTML. So here we are kind of starting HTML as well. So TypeScript was working. Now we are using HTML tag, that is unordered list. So it gives some bullets, or you can say some kind of list things which is not in order. So username, then email and
That's
password. Right. So if I go back, see this is how it looks like. Dot dot dot. Because it knows we have three things. We have actually three lists. So it's saying three dots on web page. Now if I giving some random information, console click and register, right? And you can see this is because we have given the type password. So web page hides the data. It won't show you. If you make it text, so your password will be visible. So it put type password hides the data. So if you type something, everything goes in a dot. Okay.
और वो लाइक
Hmm.
हमारा वो शो पासवर्ड और हाई पासवर्ड होता है ना, ऐसा फंक्शन होता है या नहीं होता है इसमें एंगुलर में?
That depends upon the tag you're using. We haven't used anything yet. So yeah, you can use it some JavaScript functions, or maybe something is here. So that way you can show and hide. So usually that most of the time used by the JavaScript codes or functions, which maybe it's a part of HTML file. I'll check and see if it is possible or not. But for now, I'm not using that much HTML. That's why it is coming that way.
ओके.
Because that's the idea is to focus you on Angular code. HTML, CSS you can do easily, but the things where you get stuck easily, it's a Angular code. And most importantly, when we are dealing with the forms. Okay, give me a minute. Okay, I'll be back. Just a minute. Yeah. Okay, so now it's clear. Like, see, it's not that tough. But thing is, there are multiple modules working around. So let me put this on form. I mean, not form, the paint. So this is the first thing we did on our web page. Module.html. So this is quite easy because we just use some HTML tags, and you can again get it from that W3 website. Simple there. Next thing we added one function. Oh, sorry, it's not module, it's component. This is also component. Okay, and last thing was okay, and last thing which was quite small, adding that module, because see this thing is, since we are working in user auth module, right? So auth module has its own module file, so you don't have to register that form module in app module. So that goes in this part, user module auth, because register is a part of user auth module. So let's take this here. Okay, and that's it. So yeah, forms module, forms module, and here we have this page. So you have to focus on that. We call this function from here. It goes to this function, and whatever data we have binded to this dot user data, it goes to here, user data. So these are data which gets binded here. Okay, so form data. Oops. This was here. This is here. Okay, so we in a single page you can see we simply created a HTML file, added certain tags of HTML, then we added a function call, and again this is just one way to call this function. You can see we haven't added click here. That's the reason I want to introduce you. There are multiple ways to do the same thing, so you have to focus where things are. So instead of adding any click event on button, I used ng submit. That's one function which can be also used as a what do you call, to trigger some event, and this is basically ng submit. We call this directives. Okay, we call this directive. There's a name given, and sorry, my bad. Not ng submit. It's a event. Uh, ng form is an event, and come on, and ng submit is an event. Is an event. So that ng form we have used on form. That's one of the directive, and one of the most popular directive. So I want to introduce some different events. Initially, what events we saw, they were kind of regular events. Button click event is quite common. But this is something we are talking about Angular stuff. So one of the directive we just got introduced. So like we saw modules, we saw components. Now we have directives as well. Okay, and because we have used ng form here, so this you cannot use directly. You have to register. You have to import certain libraries, some modules. So what we just did, we have imported Angular module in our custom module, correct? That's what happened here.
Yeah.
Okay, and yeah, that's it. So this is one of the simplest example I can create for you to understand that we have how to use directive. In future, we might create our own directives as well if required. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's use some if functionality, like how to use if, because this is one of the thing we use a lot. So we have to see how if works. If means like conditional operators. How we can deal conditional operators in Angular. Okay, so you know what is if condition? If else, and it also has a while loop as well. Okay, while loops and for loops. If else if like nested if else is also possible. So you can definitely use those as well. So let's create one paint image first of all. Let's save this image first. So we are talking about if else condition. So I'll give you an idea how you can use these conditions. Okay, so it can be simply use if, so let's say suppose I have a h1 tag, something like that. I can write h1 tag, okay, and inside this h1 tag, because there was no place. Think about Angular guys. What they did, they didn't introduce uh, something new, but they also figure out a place to add something. So what they said that because whenever you add an HTML tag, we have a place to create its attributes or properties. H1 can have multiple properties. So they decided we can also use Angular conditions or directives like this way. So if you have to use if condition, you have to write ng if this way and equals to some xyz data. And based on that, this will get printed, whatever text you have there or data. And then h1 tag gets closed. So this is how you can use h1 sorry if conditions. That's it. So you have to focus on asterisk ng if, and it is case sensitive, so you have to be very particular that you are using in the same cases. And let's add some example. It's quite simple to use. Okay, so this is our form right now. We don't need console, leave it. So in register component, let's create one more horizontal row line, and here um, I'll create one h1 tag, and let's say my data. This is the text of it. Okay, and now I'll put asterisk ng if, and here I'll say true. Okay, so I've said this is always true, and if I go back to this, you can see this is printing my data. Okay, good. What if I make it false? Now what will happen? I save the file, go back and see the data is gone, right? So just by hard coding that true false, you can toggle off your data. Instead of using this, let's pass this kind of condition operator to ts file. This is clear? Okay, now if I create one more, and let's say not here, I'll create some variable show. That's a variable name, my other data. And this time I won't use this true false here, but I'll create a variable and its ts file, its counter file, and here I'll say show equals to true. Okay, so I just enable this variable here. So if I go back, you can see my other data is visible. Now I don't need to go back and change this HTML. This remains same. As per the logic, it will keep changing. So now I'll make it false. And it's done. And you can see my other data is gone. It's not visible.
Okay.
Simple enough. So just by using that variable, we can hide and show our data. Right? So what we will do, let's create a simple functionality which will toggle the data, right? On off, like a switch, on off that way. Okay, so go back on our HTML file. Um, let's create one button which will trigger that event. and from that event, I mean that function, we will on off one of the switch, I mean functionality add, and even I'll call that function toggle. That's a function, so I have to add brackets, and I'll call this toggle. Bracket close toggle. Okay, and below that I can use the same functionality. This one, cut and okay, and I need this function, and when we click, it will switch that operation. So you know what? It's really simple. Maybe think about how much code I have to write for this to toggle off the solution. Any case, so this is my variable. By default, it will be true, and then I will use this variable here. Say show equals to uh, not of same show variable. That's it. Just one line. If I go back, this is a variable. This is my other data. See,
Yeah.
toggling off, and what we used a if condition and a simple logic. So every time you click, it reverses the value. If you say true, so it becomes false. If you say false, so it becomes true. By default, we are showing our data. Let me move it downside. Things will be at same place. Okay, so by default it's show, so that's fine. When you click on that function, okay, that button here, when you click on this toggle button, this function gets called, it goes to ts file, and you say it's true, so it becomes false because of not. So now show is holding false. When you again click on that button, so it says false, so it not of is becomes true, so now show becomes true, so it shows. So that's how it works. Again, a simple code, not that much, but yeah, by just this function you can think about how much data you can show and hide on your web page. You must have seen lots of website, when you click only then it shows the data, otherwise it's hidden. So you can just use that functionality and it will work. You don't have an issue. So this was in register dot component dot html file. Copy board and then ts. Okay, this and then this is the files, and on web page this is what depending. And if I want to do the same with my data, I can use the same functionality on here as well. Instead of making it hard code, I'll just uh, use this variable here. See, just use the variable. Now I can toggle off both variables or data, right? So that's how Angular works.